Silence is Where Truth Survives by Jason Gray, January 6, 2026, 6026, Anno Lucis, in the Year of Light. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Most people believe silence is empty. They experience it as awkward, uncomfortable, or unproductive. This belief keeps them perpetually noisy, internally and externally. Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is the absence of distortion. Noise is not just what you hear. Noise is what pulls you away from direct contact with reality. Most people are never truly silent. If the world quiets, the mind takes over. If the mind pauses, the body reaches for stimulation. If stimulation fades, discomfort appears, and silence is blamed. Silence is not the problem. Avoidance is. Noise performs a function. It distracts. It numbs. It fills the gaps where clarity might otherwise emerge. It prevents uncomfortable truths from surfacing by keeping attention occupied. This is why silence feels threatening. In silence, there's nowhere to hide. When noise drops away, the stories lose momentum. The justifications weaken. The emotional loops slow. What remains is raw perception, unfiltered, unedited, and often inconvenient. This is the fracture. People flee silence because silence removes their defenses. In noise, identity can perform. In silence, identity dissolves. Silence exposes what you have been carrying without realizing it. The unresolved tension, the unspoken truth, the decision you have been postponing, the grief you never finished, the anger you buried under busyness, the fear you kept medicated with distraction. Noise keeps these things at bay. Silence invites them forward. Most people interpret that invitation as danger. Silence is not cruel. It is precise. Silence does not create discomfort. It reveals it. This is why constant stimulation feels necessary. The phone, the conversation, the background sound, the endless input. These are not preferences. They are buffers between you and yourself. The cost is subtle but severe. When a person never enters silence, they lose contact with their own signal. They begin relying on external input to tell them what matters, what to think, what to feel, and when to move. Decision-making becomes reactive. Intuition dulls. Discernment weakens. They become loud inside and hollow underneath. This is not accidental. A person who cannot tolerate silence cannot tolerate truth for long. The truth does not shout. It does not rush. It does not repeat itself endlessly. Truth waits. It only speaks when the room is quiet enough to hear it. The reorientation begins with allowing silence without trying to use it. Most people turn silence into a technique, a tool, a productivity hack. They try to extract something from it. Peace, insight, relief. This immediately corrupts it. Silence does not exist to serve you. You enter silence to stop serving everything else. When you stop filling the space, something recalibrates. At first, discomfort rises. This is not failure. This is withdrawal from noise, from distraction, from identity maintenance. The nervous system protests. The mind accelerates. Old thoughts surface aggressively. Stay, not by force, by refusal to flee. As you remain, the noise begins to exhaust itself. Thoughts slow, sensations settle, The body remembers how to be without bracing. Then something else appears. Clarity, not as an idea, but as orientation. You begin to sense what is true without needing to argue for it. You feel when something is off without needing evidence. You recognize when action is required and when restraint is wiser. This is baseline human perception returning. Silence restores proportion. Problems shrink to their actual size. Urgency loosens. False dilemmas dissolve. What matters separates itself from what merely demanded attention. In silence, fear loses amplification. In silence, identity loses its script. In silence, reaction loses its fuel. This is why silence is avoided. Silence ends manipulation, both external and internal. A person who can enter silence without panic becomes difficult to rush, difficult to pressure, difficult to deceive. They stop needing constant reassurance. They stop mistaking volume for truth. They begin living from signal instead of noise. Silence does not make you passive. It makes you exact. You speak less. When you do, it lands. You act less. When you move, it is aligned. You stop filling space for the sake of comfort. You let reality occupy it instead. This is where authority deepens, not through assertion, not through dominance, but through contact with what is real beneath the noise. Silence is not an escape. It is a return. Once you learn how to enter it, you stop fearing what you might find there. What you find is not emptiness. It is yourself without interference. Silence does not take anything from you. It removes what was never true. Jason Gray. Silence has been central in my life. Having grown up off the grid and lived off grid for 34 years, I've been lucky enough to experience a lot of silence in my life. And as a child, I was very reserved and quiet. And going to town was always intense for me. I would go into just a silent state of observation. And when I got home, I would feel the difference between frenetic town and calm, quiet home. So silence has always been important to me. And now still, when I still live off the grid, and when I go to town and come home, the silence of my home that I'm lucky enough to have helps my body to let go, and I can breathe again. And sometimes I notice myself getting stiff and tense in town, and then I get home and it's like, yeah. So silence for me is not optional. It's absolutely mandatory, and it has helped me to develop my intuition to a greater degree because I get so much silence in my life. I feel like I can really listen to my intuition and know when it's right and listen to my body, listen to the world, and silence and allow things to come to me. And I've come to crave it, actually, because I have a 5-year-old that is always babbling and bubbly like a little chatterbox, and she is constantly making noise and singing, and which is so beautiful, and asking questions. Whenever she's with me, it's just a constant stream of conversation and questions. And so I've come to value silence to an unbelievable degree, much more so than at any other point in my life, I think. And today I'm celebrating a year of sobriety. I haven't drank alcohol or smoked marijuana in 1 year. And I have really come to see how those things were used as a distraction to silence. Since quitting them, I have a lot more silence in my life. And especially with smoking, I noticed that previously when I wanted to be silent, I would have a smoke and then be silent. And I really noticed how my internal world has changed since I've stopped doing that and stopped numbing myself in those ways. My internal dialogue has changed, and I am much less self-critical and fearful, and I don't rush myself as much. It's a beautiful thing. It feels so very good. I'm very thankful for this change in my life, because now I am able to embody silence on a deeper and more integral level. And I think that our world would be a much different place if more people could be more silent all the time. It's just unbelievable how much background noise there is, people feeling uncomfortable with silence and feeling the need to always have the music on in the background or always have the TV on in the background. And it makes me ask, what are they avoiding? And I think it's a lot. And I think that our world can heal when we return to silence.